Hello and welcome back to the Harmony Inspired Health podcast. Today I am joined by one of our incredible Ayurveda alchemist graduates, Samantha Morris, who is also not only an Ayurveda holistic health coach, but she is an embodiment coach, performance coach, and the founder of Heal Herself. Samantha works with high achieving women to help them reconnect to their body, regulate their nervous system, and remember that they are their own greatest healer. After a 15-year global career in maritime industry, Samantha hit a wall, burnt out, depleted, and a deep inner knowing that something had to change. Through Ayurveda, subconscious reprogramming, and embodied healing, she transformed her own life and now is helping other women do the same. So, in this episode, we're going to explore what it really means to come out of the spiritual closet like Samantha did and own your own gifts and step into your purpose. So, if you've ever felt like there's a healer hiding inside of you, and you're afraid to fully show up in your truth, then this episode is going to be for you. So, welcome to the podcast, Sam.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
You're so welcome. Now, you have spent 15 years working on ships and yachts in a very high pressure, high performance industry. I know that when COVID broke out, you were working on these ships and or the yachts and had to get all of the staff that you could back to their countries. And there was multiple staff and multiple different countries that you had to comply with. Not only that, it was a new challenge for you on top of all of the other work that you were doing on the ship. Not only that is like the challenge that we all had to face when with the unknown of what COVID was bringing and your industry kind of going under, not knowing when it was going to end, when it was going to, what was going to happen. So with that, this led to you experiencing burnout, correct?
Yeah. Mental breakdown, fatigue, fight and flight, not being able to sleep,
Mm-hmm.
being prescribed diazepam to sleep, my body sleeping, my captain not realizing how fatigued I actually was, and they're telling me that this diazepam is going to kick in 2 hours. And my colleague asked me to count something, count how many crew are in the logbook, and I was counting, and I kept it to like 7, and we're like 50 odd crew on board, and I'm like 7, I don't understand what's happening, why I can't count the rest. My body's already shutting down because I was already that sheer fatigue to the medicine, the diazepam acted a lot more quickly than they had anticipated.
Yeah,
So
right.
trying to get to my cabin as fast as possible. When I got to the elevator, obviously your body then thinks like you have motion sickness. Um, I ended up with like projectile vomit all over the elevator and kind of blacking out. Crew member having to take me to the cabin, and then all I remember then is the next morning. So it was like kind of piecing together the moment in the elevator. The other crew members have to tell me what happened after that because I didn't know. And I guess that you would say was the turning point that something has to change. I'd been experiencing some pain in my lower left side of the stomach. Was stuck on board for 7.5 months, so I wasn't able to have it like officially investigated. So nurse on board was giving me some medicines for the stomach, cannot remember the name, and so I was taking paracetamol every day, which was obviously not good on well, it's not good any time, but on a 7.5 month period on board, not knowing when you could go home, like this on top, I just wanted to be free of everything.
So, how did you get from being in this, what sounds like a really scary situation, feeling so unwell, and being inundated with tasks to do, the pressure of the ship and all of the stuff that you had to manage, and COVID breaking out, but also not being able to really get your health investigated? From going from that to jumping straight into Ayurveda as something to help heal you, where was that bridge, or what made you even think of, I'm going to look at Ayurveda for help? How did that come about?
Well, that kind of found me. So, because it was like a kind of curiosity. So, a few years back before then, I'd been to Bali and I'd done a yoga retreat. And they mentioned that they had a sister company that was called a Panchakarma. At the time, I didn't know what that was, but they gave it a bit of an explanation that you would stay on site. An Ayurvedic doctor would come and see, or you would go and see the Ayurvedic doctor every morning, and they would help like detoxify your body in a deep detoxification, depending on what your body needs. And your diet, your daily routines, everything would be designed to help you be balanced, rejuvenated. And so at that time, obviously in that sheer state of panic and fight and flight and everything, that's where I wanted to go. I wanted to get off the boat and I wanted to fly straight to Bali. But I wasn't
Nice.
I wasn't vaccinated at the time, and anyway, you could only get into Bali on a business visa, I think, at the time. So my parents begged me to come home first and to get vaccinated. The only way I could see out from the job was I resigned. I left the boat without no plan, nothing to go to, no next step. But luckily, because of the compensation on yachts, I had quite a bit of money in the bank account to allow me. And then I was like, I'm going to do my own business because I was focused on everything on the external that was contributing to how I was feeling now. I did have a not so nice captain on board, so I was focused that it was him. It was the pandemic, it was everything, the boat, everything external to me that had led me to where I was at that time. So that was 2021, so I took about an 8-month gap before I decided I would go back on another boat. I went on another boat, but it was very short-lived. It was a Russian owner, and then the Russian war broke out, so I lost my job. But many people lost their homes. So in the grand scheme of things, I lost my job. And then I decided, okay, now is time then. I've been kicked out the boats twice, the one for the pandemic. I left myself to the next one for the war. Now it's time to go and explore that Panchakarma thing that I'd heard about. So when I was on the retreat and the doctor was explaining about the Vata dosha and that the Vata dosha starts in the colon, I was like, wow, this is the pain that when I say pain, it was not necessarily a pain. It was like somebody was inside of me tapping on me, like, let me out. So it was uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah, it's like the universe was shouting at you from all different angles, from the external world, losing your jobs, from the internal world, tapping on your insides, being like, Sam, listen, redirecting your path.
Yeah, and like I say, I went there open-hearted. I was very much at the stage. I remember before I boarded the flight to Bali, I said to my mum, do you think I'm ever going to be rid of anxiety? Anxiety was taking over my life. Age of 21, like I mentioned before, I jumped on a plane, went to Miami, got on the largest cruise ship in the world. The age of 33, I'm petrified of the whole world and even petrified to get in a car. And, it'd gone complete transfer time. So before I gone to Bali, I said, do you think I will ever be free of anxiety? When I got to the doctor, he said, what do you want? What do you want? What have you come for? And I was like, well, I'm sheer burnout. I've just been through burnout, fight and flight all the time. I didn't say before, but as a coping mechanism on board, I would drink red wine at the night time. When I was with friends and family long before, when I drank red wine, it used to make me lethargic and I used to fall asleep nice and peacefully. But obviously, the environment is a big impact on how that impacts you. So whenever even though I'd resigned from the boat, if I was home and I was with my family, I drink red wine. My body remembered the red wine as a coping mechanism, and my body went in fight and flight. So I was just like, okay, not drink for a while. I said to the doctor, like, I want to be free from like anxiety. I was also with hemorrhoids, so it's like I want to not have the hemorrhoids and stuff anymore. And so with diet, exercise, movement, daily walks around the rice fields where I met yourself,
Yeah.
I just never felt so balanced. My skin was so glowing. I had no makeup on. My hair was actually green from the oils and the herbs, being bright blonde as I was at the time. But I felt so like in tune with nature.
Mm,
You open the balcony, it was, all the you were just in a rainforest basically. Like it was just,
yeah. I mean, Ayurveda at the best of time helps us cultivate more self awareness and bring us in tune with nature and cyclical living. When you're experiencing it for the first time in Panchakarma, which is pretty hardcore, I must say, for your first experience of Ayurveda, because it is a very deep, intense detoxification and cleansing program. But when you're doing it in such a beautiful atmosphere, like, Bali Retreat Center, where we met, and I can vouch that it is a stunning center. Yeah, the connection is just next level. And so you've come so far from, being in that chaotic world of the ships, and it's quite, would you call it like it's sort of corporate, isn't it? It's very much, yeah, like that high pressure sort of industry. It's a very big industry. So you've come from that. You've went through your turning point, which was that sort of breakdown and that realization that you needed to support and heal your body. And then you've moved to go back home, or partially moved back home, and then you went to Bali to experience Ayurveda and Panchakarma for the first time. So through that, we all know that you've ended up becoming qualified in Ayurveda yourself and lots of other modalities such as Vedic breathwork and meditation. But you describe yourself as a hidden healer in that process. So, what does that term mean to you? And how can someone listening identify if it's part of their story too? What is this hidden healer aspect?
like I could say when I was like at home, when I was living at home with my dad and his wife, they was always say like, you spend so much time in your bedroom. Now, at first I was like, well, maybe that's because I feel used to doing that, because when you're on board a boat, if you want to be away from everybody, you go inside your cabin. But no, actually, it was, I might be doing a yoga class, a breath work, a meditation, and was scared to do that outside. I was scared of being judged or that they don't really understand. They came into the world before it was all,
Mm,
but we started to do a lot of these things, and they came from a world of where it was just like man up, and
yeah.
but it's even in the maritime industry. Way back when I started, it was very much a masculine industry. We have many now female seafarers in all different ranks, and but before it was, like I say, very masculine. So it was very like just go 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 go. I mean, you cannot have a day, an emotional day. So like you have to just power through even if you're on a menstrual cycle or anything like that. So even I'd say to the moment to this day, when I want to go and meditate, where do you go? You can't sit at the desk. Someone's going to come over and say, "Hello, can you help me?" Like, so you may go and sit in the toilet. I've become a fan of a toilet cubicle. I call it the portal. Go in there and meditate. So I knew that this side of me that likes the yoga, likes the more the meditation and the breath work, something that really quietens my mind, allows me to come back to my true self. So there's this part of me behind closed doors, and then the part of me that in front of everybody is a bit more outgoing and try and get everybody to join in activity and stuff. And inside, I'm like, if they knew what I do behind closed doors, will I still get the same acceptance?
Yeah, I totally understand. Like I came from more of the allopathic medical world, being a registered nurse and being in government hospitals for 20 years. And it was sort of, all I had known because it was something I had did since I was 17 years old. And so having this other aspect of self, which is deeply spiritual, deeply connected, and in deep fascination of Eastern medicines and this natural health world, it almost felt like it was a conflicting sciences. And I really struggle with that at the start of my journey as well. It's like, well, will I be seen as a fraud in either both industries, really? Because like here I am in science and modern health. And now also here I am in the spiritual realm and the natural health world. And until I accepted that both parts of me help to make my higher self and I can bridge the gap between both parts, it was a bit of a struggle to I guess feel accepted in both parties. So I totally hear where you're coming from with that, and I understand what you mean about that sort of, the hidden healer, or being in the spiritual closet, which some of our listeners might be very familiar with, or even feel like it themselves, that they may be in these corporate jobs, or admin, or whatever it might be, sales jobs, and then they're going home and they're pulling these sort of oracle cards to find out their next step, or they feel really disconnected from their job, and they don't feel like they're in this sort of dharmic path. And so they do that spiritual seeking at home, where no one's really aware of their deeper connection, because they don't want to be seen as woo woo in, like you said, a masculine world that would make the female leader maybe not seem as relevant as the male leader in that industry, if she is seen as like this sort of airy fairy woo woo person, which is, complete nonsense, because that's what gives us this sort of deeper sense of connection to self and even our team, and can really contribute to some great leadership styles. So I'd love to ask you, what were your biggest internal fears or external blocks that you had to move through when stepping out of the spiritual closet, like actually coming out of your bedroom and saying, hey, this is me, this is Sam, like I am a Vedic like meditation teacher, I am an Ayurvedic holistic health coach, and I know when we met you were doing essential oils as well. You're not just this like high achieving career woman, which you also are, but you've also got this other side of you. What were those fears or those external blocks that you really had to move through?
Well, say for instance, for the essential oils, on my previous boat, they wasn't accepted on board. They said it could damage the textiles and things like that. I was like, these oils that I'm these. And I even had a conversation with a chef. He was like, "Wait a minute, you can take these oils internally." I was like, "Yeah." He went, "But they think it's going to damage the desk." I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Sometimes you can't teach idiots. You just better just give up." But so I think that's probably one of the reasons why I left that boat, because they're part of me. I use them on a daily, like whether they be my perfume, or whether zapping a spot, or I've got a little bit of shoulder pain. I'm using them daily, and if I can't be myself,
Mm.
well, I'm showing up as somebody else, and it's not the I'm putting a mask on, and I'm not being my true authentic self. And you just said what are like the limited beliefs. So as you just mentioned, I'm currently in full training to be the Vedic meditation teacher, and a lot of those fears and beliefs have recropped up. And this, I think, has been the hardest part of learning in this journey, but also the biggest transformation is working through those limited beliefs. Now, the limited beliefs are about self-worth, like and feeling free to be able to show up in my full expression. So being out there, and yes, I am a high achiever, but I'm also deeply connected to spiritual and the Vedic path, and you can be both. And that I have to, like, now start to show myself more, like podcasts, get out on stage speaking, and these are the biggest fears that
Was
I have to get past.
Would you say there was an exact turning point when you finally said, okay, this is who I am? And if so, what really helped you anchor into that identity as a healer and a space holder in this new capacity that you have?
Well, at the moment, we are learning sacred ceremony puja. To learn it's from Sanskrit language, and I have to learn word by word. Now, if I want to hide, I want to teach people to do the Vedic meditation tradition, but I want to hide, I cannot hide. I'm there to perform, to say thank you to all the gurus that were there before me. I cannot be hidden anymore. I keep seeing this vision of, maybe it's also from the maritime, this lighthouse. I'm here, see myself as a lighthouse, to show the light, to shine the light on others. You cannot do that from a hidden space. I have to put myself first out there in order to help other people to get out there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. I love that. I absolutely love that. And you are a bright, shining light with so much capacity to help heal others and to hold space for others and shine the light for others. I really, really do love that. And I also want to ask you because, when people hear about Ayurveda, they think it's an Ayurvedic diet, for instance. So they think it's just about eating the diet or doing an Ayurveda massage, but it really is a pathway to remembering who you really are, which I feel like you have absolutely embodied and embraced from the moment that I first met you when you were only introduced to Ayurveda through coming through our Ayurveda Alchemist Academy and going on doing other studies in like this Vedic meditation, and you're coming back through the Alchemist to do the Vedic breath work and really just 100% stepping into this space, which I love, absolutely love seeing. How has this pathway helped you reconnect with your feminine rhythms and your intuition and purpose, considering you have come from such a masculine workplace?
Yeah, I would say I even came from a masculine dominated home. As I say, when my parents separated, I lived with my brother and my dad. So I would say I very much learned from young, and obviously then being in the maritime industry, to not show your emotions, to suppress them. Learning Ayurveda and fully like allowing me to feel and knowing that feeling your emotion, energy, emotion, allowing that energy to come through, acknowledging it and letting it go. It's still a work in progress. It's not something I'm done and dusted with, but also another part is not just to be awareness of the emotions and the emotional intelligence, but also to be aware of self. As I mentioned before, I focused so much on it. I resigned from my boat because I was like, it was my boat, it was my captain, it was the pandemic. I didn't think about the part I had to play. So, when we're on board the boat, all our food is catered for us. So there's an abundance of food on board, and you, I didn't watch what I was putting on my plate. I
Mm.
was going to bed late. I was drinking red wine all night. I focused so much on everything that happened outside, but what was I doing to myself?
Yeah.
Was I eating chicken and beef at the same time and your body can't digest both at the same time, then wondering why I'm constipated? And I want to say to people, like I say, when I first met you was September 2022. This was my first introduction to Ayurveda. So obviously it's easy to do not easy, but it's easier to do in a panchakarma because you're away from all distraction, you're away from the internet, you're away from everybody else, you're away from desire, chocolate, burgers, pizzas, whatever. You're away from all this desire. And as we mentioned before, it's not just diet, but so you want to bring your learning of what you've learned there back home. You did approach me at the time and asked me if I wanted to do your course, and I was like, no, no, I'm oils. Until you told me you can merge oils with Ayurveda. I was like, it took a while to kick in. I think I reached out in the January, but we're now July 2025. I would say Ayurveda is like peeling an onion. It's adding a layer on layer. You don't just learn it and then you're fully embodied in it. It's you take one step. Maybe the first step that I took that I was able to bring from the Panchakarma home was the tongue scraping, the oil pulling. These became second nature. Now, when I brush my teeth in the morning, it's also with splashing your face with the water to to wake your eyes up and to moisturize your eyes. But even with learning everything that you learnt me on the Ayurveda Alchemist course, until you embody in that day and day, as I
Mm.
say, it won't be a straight switch. You're not going to go from going from cooking your favorite meals in your old way to now making them adaptable into Ayurveda and better suited to your body. It's not going to happen in a day. It's not going to happen in a month. Like I say, it's
No.
3 years and I'm still learning now.
Well, it's the science of life, right? That's what Ayurveda means. And so it's a lifelong learning. It really is the embodiment pathway to our higher self and the knowledge that we accumulate over our lifetime. And so we're all learning. Like even I've been in the Ayurvedic industry for many years now and I teach Ayurveda and I have the programs and I'm still learning every single day. But that's also what I love about it because it helps us to remember that even if we are a teacher in some capacity, we're still always a student, and we're a student for life. And that will help us sort of grow and evolve. So I'd love to hear what teachings or experiences left the biggest impact in your life through the Ayurveda Alchemist Academy.
I really loved the philosophy.
Mm.
Like the philosophy, the Vedic philosophy. I could sit there for hours. Maybe in my request, this would be a bigger module, but just that's because I'm so interested in going in the depth of the history and stuff.
Absolutely.
Also, though, about the different foods that are good for your dosha. I will say that I think because I was a perfectionist, or still am, but in working not to be, that I wanted to fully embody every module before I moved on to the next. And obviously, that I put a lot of pressure on myself. I think your program is very well spaced out. I think because I knew I was Vata, I did focus on only the Vata diet for, I mean, at least probably 12 months, which probably also meant I wasn't getting all the nutrients and stuff I needed from every other food as well. I was focused just on just eating just only Vata diet.
Yeah.
I like how you brought in like Mel as well that did mindset coaching. Because it's not all, as we know, Ayurveda is not just about the diet. It's not just about what you eat, how you exercise. It's the whole finding the root cause of everything.
Absolutely.
And no, I like you focus also on like on the limited beliefs as well, because that's sometimes what keeps us stuck the most.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't heal from a disempowered state. So we have to move into that empowered mindset to be able to really take control of our life and our emotions. And Ayurveda really sees health as is what I call health alchemy, which is the first pillar of my higher self method, is the integration and the understanding of our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and dharmic health. And together that is our health alchemy. And then we also need to really hone in on that aspect of the empowered mind paradigm. So, looking at those belief systems and the 7 layers of consciousness that are driving our actions every day. And then, of course, dialing in on the impact that we create through our Dharma, which is showing up with our values and being consistent with that. So, yeah, absolutely loved having you in The Alchemist, and once an alchemist, also always an alchemist. So you're still part of it, very much so. And throughout the journey, you have now been able to bring all of your wonderful tools and wisdom together, and you've created Heal Herself and the Rebirth Path. So I would love to hear more about this beautiful creation and this sacred experience that you are providing for women.
Yeah, so Heal Herself is from an acronym, and the Heal is holistic alignment, empowered choices, Ayurvedic principles, and lifestyle integration. So over the 12-week journey, we'll go through different phases, starting off with like an intense health audit, going through your previous health history and anything from the family. I also, one question I always ask them is, when they talk about, well, they might say, in this year I started to gain a lot of weight, or this year my hip started to really hurt. And I think one question that maybe is really good to ask them, I ask them, what happened for you emotionally at that time? So, and that then really gets them to think back, because as we mentioned earlier, that Ayurveda is the whole thing, it's the root cause. And I really am a big firm believer that our physical concepts happen from our emotions. And then we will go through and we'll meet you where you're at, so where you're currently at, and design a daily routine. Not, I obviously I've got so much knowledge, but I cannot overpower the client. I meet them where they're at and give them small steps, because small steps are going to make the lasting changes later on.
Yeah.
Whether we're going through somatic exercises, visualizations, rewiring techniques to rewire the limited beliefs, I will meet them exactly where they're at and go through those, bring in the Ayurveda, the daily routine, the embodiment practices, and then Obviously, then it's the lifestyle integration, making sure that they can put what they've learned back with their lifestyle so they don't have to do a whole switch right away.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
it's a over 12-week program. Obviously, look different for everybody, and just following the HEAL framework.
Love that. Sounds absolutely beautiful. And to wrap it up, I'd love to ask for the women listening who feels a quiet call to step into their healer gifts or who are afraid of coming out of that spiritual closet or healing closet. They're maybe a little bit unsure or maybe they feel a little bit overwhelmed by, by showing up. What gentle steps can she take today to start honoring her inner healer?
I'd start by just exploring one thing you're interested in. Maybe you've never been to a yoga class, maybe go to a yoga class or a breathwork class where this, I think that's what helped me, finding a community, even if you can't do that at home or at work, but finding a community of one small spiritual step that you would like to take. So so you'll have a place where you can show up as yourself every week or every other week, where you can be your full self. Once you start doing that and you're around people where you can do that in your community, you'll feel that you can start being more that person in your everyday life.
Love that. And a community that you feel really safe and supported in. It's so, so important. And it's one of my within business, like one of my biggest drivers is creating community and a really supportive community where people connect. And I just love that aspect so much of the business that I've created. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your gifts and sharing your story. I love what you're doing. I love seeing you be that lighthouse for many other women out there. And if you are listening and would love to get in contact with Samantha, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Heal Herself with Samantha, and also the website is www.healherselfwithsamantha.com. It hopefully will be up shortly. We're just rebuilding at the moment the website.
Beautiful. And thank you so much for everyone who has tuned into this conversation. If you are interested in uncovering your healing gifts, learning Ayurveda, then I would invite you to jump on a free discovery call with myself and we can look at what that could look like for you. And if you are interested in maybe taking even a smaller baby step and really stepping into your higher self and understanding from the Ayurvedic perspective how you can really unlock your higher self and your spiritual gifts, then I encourage you to go and grab my book, Ayurveda and the Alchemy of Her. I will put both mine and Samantha's links in the show notes below. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate all of you.